everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I hope you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday. Back at it with another video. We are going to be doing the astro weather for the week of April 28th through May the 5th, 2024. But we've got a bit of a double header today, guys, because I kind of had to move some stuff around in my content schedule. So we're definitely going to touch on the astrology for the next week. And I'm going to talk to you guys about what's going on as like a general overview for the astrology for the month of May 2024. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome. My name's Candice. I am a Western and evolutionary astrologer. I focus on interpreting both the transits as well as the Sabian symbols and sometimes some tarot to understand what's going on in the cosmos. Make sure you click the bell button below, subscribe to my channel so you're alerted as to when we have new videos coming out. Make sure you drop me a comment below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Give me a thumbs up. Help the algorithm with this video. It's going to help get this out to other people who love astrology on YouTube. Don't forget to check out my membership so you guys can join a membership level to support my full-time content creation work. You can also join me here on Fridays for live readings. And check out my website. I teach tarot, I teach astrology, and I see private clients. For all that and much more, go to www.beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, cool. Thank you for letting me do my shameless plug. Let's get into the themes that I want to talk to you guys for May. And then we'll look at this week and we'll kind of build into the month of May. But essentially, we made it to the end of eclipse season. High five, guys. That was a pretty gnarly Mercury retrograde, pretty gnarly eclipse season. I keep telling everybody, like, probably about 80% of the challenging transits of 2024 was the month of April. So you guys can mark yourself safe at the end of this week. I really see this as whatever April showers were going down, like whatever drama, whatever strife, whatever chaos was happening, it's going to be bringing May flowers. At least I hope so, fingers crossed. May is like a breath of fresh air. I think that it's going to be wonderful to see so many planets that are going to be moving into Taurus. So it's going to be a lot of earth energy, very grounded. We're going to see planets in their domicile between Mars and Aries, Venus and Taurus. We've got kind of some nice aspects also between, planets in Pisces and planets in Taurus. So we're really building off of our dreams, our visions, our manifestations, our beliefs. We're building a new reality. We have also made it past the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, but that was just a seeding moment. So for some of us, as planets are coming into conjunction with Jupiter and Uranus later this month, we will start to actually see some physical manifestation of some of those leaps of faith that we've been taking. Watch for some really sweet Jupiter conjunctions. You know, it's not just, Venus conjunct Jupiter, although I think that's wonderful, but we're also going to be seeing Jupiter move into the sign of Gemini. So there's going to be some conjunctions kind of hanging out around there as well. Jupiter entering Gemini is definitely going to help us all be a little bit more chatty, communicative, kind of have more of an open mind. I do have a video coming on that for you guys pretty soon. I'm going to do a previewing of Jupiter in Gemini. I also touch on that in my horoscope. So if you guys want to know how that's going to be impacting your sun, moon, and rising sign, check out the May horoscopes this month. But yeah, really good news, obviously, for all sun, moon, and rising Gemini placements. There's some pros and cons of Jupiter being in this particular sign. It can be a little bit challenging because it's in the opposite sign, which it's associated with Sagittarius. But likely it's going to be great for learning, especially if you want to learn a new language. It's great for picking up new gadgets. It's going to be great for making changes with cars and vehicles. I anticipate it's going to also create a big boom for media, independent media, social media, new apps and stuff that's going to come online with this transit as well. And some very positive lunations. We've got, a very kind of big Venus signature that's going on with some of these new moons. New moon in Taurus, and then we're going to have that full moon in Sagittarius featuring a Jupiter-Venus conjunction. So I'm really liking the sweetness and the abundance that's kind of associated with both of these lunations this month. So you guys know me, I'm pretty right between the eyes with my astrological forecast, but it's really, really nice to be able to be like, wow, there's so many positive things that are going to be manifesting in this next month. So I really feel like we're being rewarded for being astro warriors throughout the month of April. So let's get into this next week, and then I'll touch on the most important transits for May. So let's start with today's Sunday, April 28th. For all of you guys who are part of my Sunday crew, what's up? Good morning. I hope you guys are enjoying your coffee or your tea, your quiet time. When we wake up in the morning, the moon's in Capricorn. So we are taking care of business. And something you guys are going to notice today is that it feels like, on one hand, very productive, because we're going to see that moon continue to move through Capricorn, which is about timing, structure, career, responsibility, getting things done. I love when like a Sunday corresponds with like a moon in Capricorn. I plan my week out, right? Like I'll do my laundry, I confirm clients, I, do some work emails, I'll organize my office space. I find ways to be productive while that moon is in Capricorn. Well, that's going to be today. And the sun is going to build into a trine with the moon. So as we see that moon move through Capricorn, which is a little serious, it's going to trine the sun. So we're going to feel like there's something that's kind of, physically manifesting and kind of working out for us. I love this dream team energy of, busy Capricorn and productive Taurus working together. I'm also loving that the moon is going to start coming into a sextile with Saturn. So that's really wonderful for, having our busy work kind of taken care of earlier in the day. And then as we're building into that sextile, really Sunday night going into Monday morning, we're kind of feeling like we're in the zone. The only challenge that I will say that's going to happen on Sunday today is that we're going to see Mars coming into conjunction with Neptune. Now that's not actually going to be taking place until actually closer to like tomorrow. But we're seeing per degree, Mars and Neptune are in conjunction. So recently, right, in recent weeks, we've seen Mars come into conjunction with Saturn. That was really a big part of the eclipse season that we saw. Mars conjunct Saturn, setbacks, limitations, delays, frustration, right? Like really feeling like we're having to overcome something. Now Mars meeting with Neptune is lower energy. It can also be where there's blind spots, where we're not seeing something so clearly. Remember, Mars rules the North Node, so it's about linear direction, activity. Aries is about, independence. It's about entrepreneurial energy. It's about confidence and really having a lot of stamina. So when the North Node ruler is 12th house to the ascendant or to the North Node, and it's coming into conjunction with Neptune, which dissolves in a sign that is sometimes a little bit more private, emotional, reserved, Pisces. We don't really know what direction we're going in, right? It's like I look at this as like, taking a goldfish bowl and like shaking up that bowl, and the fish is like, I don't know what direction I'm going in, right? Obviously, please don't shake your goldfish, but you guys get what I'm saying, because Mars can be about shaking things up, and Mars is also about finding solutions to things. So when it meets with Neptune, which is mystical and magical and spiritual, and it's vibey, and it's about, intuition and music and inspiration, it can kind of get lost in a bit of a daydream and like forget what it was working on, or like what the goal was, or it can hit the snooze button, kind of fall asleep. It is interesting because when I look at what's kind of happened with some of the Mars aspects, really going back to like when Mars was reborn in Scorpio, there's been a lot of combative energy. And so this Mars-Neptune conjunction, for the collective can mean that there's a lot of anger, frustration, there's a lot of passive aggressiveness, there is a lot of tension that we're feeling collectively, because Pisces can be about that collective. It's kind of in our subconscious, maybe it's affecting our dreams, it's affecting our sleep, and people can just be a little bit more irritable, so be mindful of that with this conjunction. So in a way, I don't want to say it takes away from our productivity, but I feel like it's really kind of saying like we need to be really focused on what our emotions are telling us, and we need to be working in a way that we're honoring those emotions. We're not just working through it. Anything in Pisces is teaching us we have to sometimes put stuff away. We have to get off the computer, get off the phone, stop watching TV. We need to meditate, zone out, take some time alone to reflect, or just kind of like recuperate. So maybe it's about us really, taking time and actively making time to rest and recuperate and kind of like recharge our batteries. Now this is going to be happening at 28 degrees. So this is a degree that's about Cancer. So it's about the homeland, right? It's about home, family, our apartments, our private spaces. It's about our families. So it can be that there is like a sense of us feeling like we want to retreat a little bit and we're wanting to kind of stay home and get comfortable. But it also means that there can be some feelings that are coming up for us that are things pertaining to the past, or we're just kind of feeling like a little more emotionally charged. Last degree of the zodiac coming into 28, 29 degrees. You guys heard me talk about this in this last week where I was like, yeah, this is where things get a little weird. We're going to see Neptune hit 29 degrees actually very soon, right around the time it's sextiling Jupiter and Venus this month. So there's something completing in the Pisces area of our chart. We can't quite see it yet. Collectively out there, this can also mean, unfortunately, touch wood, because every time I say this on my weeklies, this stuff happens, and I don't like that, but it does. Mars is combativeness and it's about attacks, right? So this can be about military mobilization on water. This can be about issues going on with more like things relating to bridges or relating to dams or water. This can also be things pertaining to like actual home security, or we're going to hear more about military mobilization that's taking place along borders because Saturn is in this sign. And stuff pertaining to immigration. And Mars can be about military, but it can also be about men. So we can hear more about like actual, younger people who are like immigrating or kind of congregating along border lines, and where there is some stuff that's going on that's a little like mysterious and like hidden. So we might hear more about how people are being brought through, certain aspects or points from the border that we were not aware of. We might also be hearing more where there are certain countries that's aiding that process and helping them because it's at a 28. And also I really genuinely feel like because Mars in traditional astrology, it deals with disease. That conjunction to Neptune is going to be more discussions about, okay, where are we more prone to health issues and disease issues because of immigration? Also things that are out there that we do not see. This is going to be moving through the degrees that's connected to Cancer. And, Cancer has connections to water, to liquids, to dairy, to milk. So I've thought for some time that this conjunction that's building up, you're going to hear more about, milk that's been contaminated, stuff, connected to the bird flu. Not a scientist, not a doctor. I'm just kind of connecting the dots with the astrology that I think we're going to hear more about this. So yeah, we'll see. I saw an article, I was posting on it. If you guys don't follow me on X, follow me on X because I post a lot of interesting stuff on there. But it was like end of February, I want to say, of this year. I believe it was right outside of Denver, somewhere in Colorado. They were doing drills, hospital drills, where they were working with the hospital staff, and they were going through scenarios of what if this happened? What if that happened? How do we treat things? How are we prepared? And one of the drills that they were doing in February of 24 was, here's the scenario. The milk supply has been, tainted. Somehow it's been poisoned, or there's been like a chemical attack. This is all fictional. What do we do? How do we, help support people who are in the hospital? And I just kind of shook my head at some of the stuff that's been going on recently with the concerns. There are limiting where dairy cows can actually travel to right now because of concerns about the bird flu cross-contaminating, getting into milk, and then, the milk getting into the supply chain. So I wonder if we're going to hear some more about this. Pisces is very mysterious. It's suspicious. We don't really see anything until Mars is getting ready to be reborn, which we will see this month. Mars going into Aries is going to be like Mars on steroids because it's going to meet with the North Node. Anyway, watch for varying energy levels today. Be very mindful of what you're drinking, what you're consuming, what you're watching. There can be some things that can make you agitated. There can be a sense of being more prone to frustration, more emotional tears, angry crying, right? Hot kind of outbursts. But a positive way to work with this is to get your R&R in, to drink some warm liquids, to do some hot yoga, to take a long hot shower or bath. Work with the positive aspects of Mars and Neptune, which can be about spiritual warriors. It can be also about really making your prayers come to life and using them in a sense of like spiritual defense or religious defense, because Mars is supposed to be like this warrior. Anyway, so that energy will hang around until like tomorrow. We will see that the moon is going to keep moving through Capricorn. as we get into the evening. And then this is going to roll into Monday the 29th, and that moon starts coming into sextile with Saturn. Now watch on Monday, we're going to see some interesting stuff right off the bat in the morning, okay? The moon in Capricorn is going to come into a square with the north and south node. And when the moon squares its own nodes, or any square to the nodes in general, we have to integrate that theme and that lesson of that planet. So the moon is, where we're all at emotionally, for about a 2.5 day period. This is talking about where, we're all at kind of collectively. Moon in Capricorn, we hear more themes revolving around bosses and parents and responsibility and work and career. And, the moon in Capricorn is about doing emotional heavy lifting. So we may feel like Monday morning is just a little bit more challenging than normal. The square to the north and south node does indicate that there are things happening pertaining to the Capricorn area of your chart that's helping you move away from south node and Libra, people pleasing, overly identifying in relationships, being codependent, being, indecisive, where we're needing to take emotional action, right? Capricorn is a cardinal sign. To be able to be more north node in Aries, independent, self-directed, assertive, brave. And we're just going to see all kinds of stuff kind of ricochet all over the place. That moon is not only going to square the nodes, which brings up some stuff pretty much first thing in the morning, but then it's going to come into a square with Mercury, which is now direct. Okay, so retrograde's over. Difficult time communicating our needs, what we want, what we think, what we feel, what we believe compared to what is expected of us. So this can kind of feel like a day that's like, yeah, I would much rather be doing a whole list of things, but I have responsibilities, or I have kids I got to get to school, or I've got lunches I have to pack, or, I've got to show up to work, or I've got to take care of, a parent. So there is this sense of feeling a little disgruntled about not being able to communicate our needs appropriately because we're kind of feeling that there is, bigger fish to fry. We've got some kind of responsibilities going on out in the world. When the moon then comes out of the square with Mercury, then it's going to start squaring Chiron. And so we're going to kind of notice like where maybe on Monday, like being too tough, too responsible, too much in denial of our needs, our feelings, actually does us a bit of disservice. And so you might kind of notice that on Monday, where it's like just kind of chugging through things and not acknowledging feelings, and like where we're having to make personal sacrifices, and like how that actually impacts our own personal identity can cause some problems, right? Same day, we're also going to see the Venus ingress into Taurus. So if you guys haven't caught that video, check it out. I talk all about this transit, why it's so sweet. But essentially, Venus moving into its domicile means that Venus is playing with home field advantage. So she's in the sign of, fixed earth, stable, fertile ground, pleasure, sensuality, quality, things that taste good, feel good, smell good. So Venus moving into Taurus is really good news for relationships, really good news for finances and resources. She's going to get a little banged up because she will come into a square with Pluto pretty much right off the bat. But for the most part, I do think it's going to be a positive transit. And then finally, what we're going to notice is as we're getting into the late evening, the moon is going to start trining Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus. And I really feel like the sweet spot is going to be like later on Monday when the moon starts making those trines and also sextiling Neptune. It's like, okay, maybe we did learn how to not be super selfish and prioritize our goals or get something done in time today. Did it feel good? No, but were we productive? Yeah. It can also mean that this is a time where hard work and dedication and focus and commitment, a little bit of sacrifice pays off. And we're like, wow, look at what I was able to kind of accomplish today. And like, there is some kind of like, some kind of like treat or, some physical kind of gain that comes at the end of Monday. So I do feel like that is quite positive. Now we're going to watch then as we go into Tuesday the 30th. So as we wake up in the morning, the moon is getting ready to ingress into Aquarius. And so you're going to want to watch here because when that happens, it's going to trigger the Venus-Pluto square stuff. So right around late morning, midday on Tuesday, the moon will leave Capricorn and go into Aquarius, where we're going to look at both Saturn as well as Uranus. Well, Jupiter and Uranus are still in close proximity, so it's separating, right, where we've had these new sudden kind of spring up opportunities for growth, innovation, change, freedom. But with the moon touching Pluto, there's always this emotional purge. There's a sense of feeling like we're working through, where we're resistant to change, or where we're afraid to make some shifts. Aquarius is about the future. So where it's like, I know what I need to do, but I'm afraid to make that change. Or I know what needs to happen, but like I'm kind of dragging my feet. Moon Pluto can bring some difficult emotional relations with other people. I'm going to double down on that, especially because it's coming into that square with Venus, which is relational, right? So Venus in Taurus wants stability, pleasure, it wants comfort, it doesn't want any drama. But that moon Pluto is bringing drama. So it's saying where there can be friction with groups of people, there can be friction with politics, there can be environmental, issues and things that come up. And then we start to hear about and learn about some of the physical or financial repercussions. I've talked a lot about the squares between Aquarius and Taurus, and that it's going to materialize, I think, as a lot of people starting to realize more about some of these Agenda 2030 goals, and you hear about like the cities that they're trying to develop that are going to be sustainable, and it's like, oh, people won't have cars, or we're going to be talking more about carbon tax, or we're going to be hearing more about what you can and cannot eat or purchase or buy or consume. That's very much the epitome of squares between Aquarius and Taurus. Taurus is, what do I have? What do I possess? What do I own? And Aquarius is, well, what's best for everybody collectively? So when we break it down a little bit further and we look at Pluto in Aquarius, it's where there is this collective power of groups or ideas, or everybody kind of being unified or kind of, together in one camp, and the need for us collectively to change or transform. And then that's being decided by groups of people who wield some kind of power, and they're pressing that upon Taurus because this is an opening square. So it's like, well, how does that impact me? What I have, what I consume. I think a lot of people are going to be waking up to this, and they're going to be hearing more about some of the changes that are going on with that in your country or in your neck of the woods, depending on where you live. So we'll see that kind of play out on and off throughout Taurus season. Venus is about relationships, though. Okay, so relationships, money, investments, values. And a Venus square Pluto transit is like where we can find it difficult to maintain peace. We can find it difficult to find a balance in relationships. People get obsessive, they get angry, they get jealous. We see kind of hot tempers and things that kind of come up with Venus Pluto stuff. And so I do feel like there can be some tension between what we need to feel safe and secure, what we're hoping to possess, or what we're kind of connected or committed to, versus what changes actually need to be happening in the future. And so there may be a little bit of friction between those two things. That's going to get basically triggered with the moon transit. So you guys will see that. You're also going to see the same day Mars is going to move into Aries. So outside of that square, which is uncomfortable, the positive is that the moon immediately comes into Aquarius, where we're thinking about the future. It's conjunct Pluto, so it's like the future is definitely changing in a very big way. And the sextile to now Mars at 0 degrees is that it will incentivize some people to be like, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to initiate something. I'm going to do something new. I have news for you guys. Now we are finally in the astrology where we're feeling like things are going to move forward. Okay. Yes, at the beginning of May, Pluto's going to go retrograde. And I'm not rolling my eyes saying it's not a big deal, but Mercury's no longer retrograde. Mars is now in Aries. We're going to have, Venus in its domicile. We're going to see conjunctions to Jupiter. Now the energy starts moving. So there's really no excuse to be like, yeah, I'm just still figuring things out, or, I just need some more time to organize or get things going. No, Mars going into Aries is like, nope, here we go. We're initiating things. We're going to get it moving. So this is now when you're going to start to feel like the beginning of 2024 is going to move forward. It just took like 5 months, right? So that's okay. It happens when it happens. Mars enters Aries today. Okay, so we've got now the North Node ruler in the North Node sign. So you will see between the time of Mars being at 0 degrees and making its way up to about 14, 15 degrees, the pace, the momentum, the let's get going, let's initiate something, let's get active, but also impatient, frustrated, a little bit combative. So Aries energy, because it's connected to Mars, it needs an outlet. So you're going to be, bickering or fighting, or you're going to be physically active, or you're going to notice that you're going to have a stronger impulse to go and do things. You're going to notice there's going to be a little bit of like an uptick in your sex drive. That can happen with this as well because, you know, Venus and Mars deal with the sexes. So having them both in their respective signs is definitely like kind of feeling like we're noticing a boost maybe in our libido, right? All right, so we're going to keep seeing the planets kind of do their thing. It looks like the moon is going to cross Pluto midday on Tuesday. So watch for that. And then Venus is going to come in. She's going to keep moving. And round about the time she hits 2 degrees and change, which will be that evening, Venus will square Pluto. So watch the pressure in relationships. Don't be feeling pressured to make any moves when it comes to money and resources and finances. Be mindful of that also Tuesday evening. And then this is going to take us now into May the 1st. So we're officially in May. So this is going to be Wednesday. Wake up in the morning. Moon is still in Aquarius. It's doing its thing. And early in the morning, it's actually squaring the sun. So depending on where you live, it's pretty early in the morning here, Pacific and Central time. But if you're on the East Coast or if you're kind of ahead and you're in other parts of the world or Europe, you guys are going to feel that kind of discombobulated feeling with the moon square the sun. You know, the sun wants to take its time. It wants pleasure and it wants, you know, comfort. And the moon in Aquarius with that square, because it's in a fixed sign, is like, no, we need to get out of our comfort zone. So we're feeling a little pushed, you know. Something else that we're going to notice is as the moon continues to keep moving through Aquarius, it will start coming into a sextile with the North Node and Mercury, where we're focusing collectively on the future and working with other people. We're able to kind of speak our mind. We're able to share. But simultaneously, there's squares that are going to be building to Jupiter and Uranus. And so this does kind of represent physical, financial value changes that are kind of happening here as well. So, you know, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, these are all financial signs. So when we kind of see this happening, we may start to see more financial like rumbles that's kind of going on out in the world for sure. All right, so that moon's going to keep moving. It looks like it's going to start coming into the square with what appears to be Uranus and then Jupiter. And that's going to be later in the evening. So for some of you guys, it's going to be while you're sleeping, but that's going to be taking place really late into the early hours of the 2nd on Thursday. Thursday is a little bit more of a calm day. You know, we wake up in the morning and the moon is still in in Aquarius, but we will see it enter into Pisces. That's pretty much the only thing that's going to be happening all day, to be honest with you guys. Nothing else is really going on. So Thursday is a little bit more of like a cool, calm, and collected day. It looks like we're going to see that moon ingress into Pisces around the afternoon hours right here. And when the moon moves into Pisces, we're looking at Jupiter and we're looking at Neptune, okay? So nothing is really going on yet. The moon hasn't come close to Saturn. It's going to come into a sextile with Venus, but that's pretty much the only aspect it's going to be making. When that moon's in Pisces, you know, we need private time. We're resting, we're retreating, we're kind of keeping to ourselves. We're kind of getting a little bit more rest or downtime. So definitely the 2nd is a good day for that. And this is going to take us to the 3rd. It looks like as we're coming into the end of the 2nd, the moon's going to start sextiling Venus, and it'll pick up a sextile to the sun on the 3rd. Okay, so here we are on the 3rd. So this is going to be Friday. We'll see moon conjunct Saturn pretty much midday. So a little bit more difficult to emotionally relate. We might be feeling a little bit more isolated. There is a sense of kind of turning inward, being a little bit more in touch with our intuition, listening to that, especially because this conjunction is going to sextile the sun and Uranus. So you may notice that your spidey senses are a little bit more finely tuned on this day. Moon conjunct Saturn can kind of function very similar to the moon in Capricorn. There is a sense of like emotional labor, you know, working through things and having to kind of process our emotions. And Pisces is much more internal. So, you know, it is about what we are thinking about, manifesting, meditating on. It is about what we're doing in private. And this can be a really good time for strategizing and kind of planning behind the scenes. And kind of, getting an idea of like, okay, what am I working on? What is my vision for something? What am I building because of these sextiles to the second house? Something else that we're also going to see happening today is that Mars in Aries is now sextiling Pluto. Well, now Pluto is retrograde. Okay, so I think the retrograde starts on the 2nd. And that in itself is a whole other thing. We're reevaluating power structures in our life. And you have to look at where Aquarius is in your chart, but it's at 2 degrees. So we're reevaluating what are groups of people doing with our money. Okay, so whether this is what are companies doing with our money, what are banks doing with our money, what's going on with government spending. 2 degrees is about money, banks, and resources. And so when we see an outer planet like Pluto retrograde, there is this sense of being like, oh, well, is that solid? How much of my power am I giving away to this thing? So you'll have to kind of look back at what was happening maybe when Venus was squaring that, and get an idea of what was kind of breaking down or not working for you. And then obviously, Pluto retrograde is pretty significant, pretty much for Scorpio risings. That's your modern day ruler. But for Aquarius placements as well, early degrees Aquarius as well. So now Pluto is retrograding actually back to Capricorn. So we'll see that later in the year, that it'll kind of dip into Capricorn very briefly in the fall before coming back into Aquarius. So look at what's going on, because it's going to be, dipping back into another sign here in a couple of months. But because Mars is action, direction and motivation, that sextile to Pluto is like through transformation of power, through some kind of collective crisis, through some kind of new goal about the future, it incentivizes us, it motivates us to want to kind of make a change. So make lemonade, basically, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. All right, so then we're going to see, I believe, Mercury's coming up also on the eclipse degree as well, although that may not happen until closer to the 4th. Am I missing anything else? That's pretty much it. Moon's going to keep moving through Pisces. It'll start leaving that separation from Saturn. One thing I will note, though, is that the moon, from the evening hours on the 3rd, which is Friday, through about the 4th going into the 5th, the moon's going to be between Saturn and Neptune, all right, and Mars. So we've got, by technical standards, the moon is going to be between 2 malefics, Mars and Saturn. When the moon moves through here, especially in Pisces, emotions, meltdowns, psychological issues, mental emotional issues, drinking, water-related matters, flooding, all of that stuff. The moon going through this passage, we can see more problems relating to these things. So be mindful of that if you're in an area where there is more extreme weather, if you are feeling more emotionally sensitive, it's primarily because the moon is going to be between these planets. So watch from Friday night. Okay, so now into Saturday morning, which is going to be the 4th, the moon is going to start coming into conjunction with Neptune. All right, so I could see some people having pretty gnarly hangover here with the moon Neptune. But it can also be waking up and feeling like, oh, it's difficult to get out of bed, or, I just would rather stay in bed and just like Netflix, or, there can be self-undoing patterns that can come up. Just so you guys know, Neptune's at 29 degrees in Pisces, okay? None of us in our lifetime have had this transit. We have not had it. So with Neptune being here, the last degree, I'm telling you guys right now, collectively, you're going to be like, there are some people out there that are fucking Looney Tunes, that are just having a really difficult time dealing with reality, and whether they are melting down over what they're watching on TV, whether they are experiencing major emotional, psychological issues. We're going to see rampant issues with medication and alcoholism. Unfortunately, this is something that's going to come up. Not just because of the activations going on with the last degrees of Pisces, which Mars has been conjunct since the time you're watching this video, but also because Jupiter is approaching Algol, which is around 26 degrees of Taurus, which is about alcohol. What a great time to be opting or trying to practice moderation or sobriety. And I'm not here to be like a buzzkill, but specifically with some of these transits, and I think we are going to realize even more as we're getting into the next year or so, with the North Node going into Pisces, with eclipses in Pisces, with retrogrades in Pisces. From an astrological perspective, me personally, I can say very confidently that I will be opting not really to be drinking, primarily because of the concerns of what I think is going to be put in alcohol. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I think. And, you know, just doing a little bit of research and looking at, well, what millionaires and billionaires are investing into alcohol companies. Go and do some research. That'll also send you down a bit of like a rabbit hole. Why is it that there is some push for, you know, Middle Eastern or Muslim countries to be openly accepting, or why are there some groups that are encouraging them to allow, you know, alcohol consumption in those countries? And why is there, you know, like pushback on that? Which, I mean, I think is probably a good thing. If a country says, hey, we're not going to do it, so be it. But think about that, some food for thought. You know, if you guys want to really see this in action, watch what happens with Mars going through Neptune, you know, the Neptune conjunction the next week. Watch what happens when the moon comes into conjunction. Watch what happens as Saturn starts coming into this conjunction. We are going to see people who are going to be having real issues mentally and emotionally. So if you're struggling, because sometimes we see people who are more prone to depression here. We see people who are feeling at a loss and they can have a tendency to idealize or have issues with, you know, self-harm. Call somebody, ask for help, right? And if you're seeing people who are exhibiting that behavior, I would take it seriously, because the moon is going to trigger that. So with that moon being in conjunction still to Saturn and to Neptune, you're going to notice that there's going to be some crazies out there. And that moon is going to keep moving, right? So this is the 4th. And it's going to come into a sextile with Jupiter and Uranus here. I think a lot of it's people having a difficult time dealing with the frequencies and the vibrational changes that are going on with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So ground your energy, kids, get your crystals out, go outside, be outside, do some gardening, put your feet on a grounding mat, do some yoga, you know, something where you can focus, like kind of being in your body. But that moon is going to keep moving, and it'll then come into conjunction with Neptune. Okay, so I'm anticipating, like, man, like Friday and Saturday, be very mindful with people who are out on the road who are drinking and driving, because that moon conjunct Neptune is people not all in their right mind. And the moon is heading towards a conjunction with Mars. Impact. So these are the nights that you really want to be like, I'm getting a DD, or I'm calling an Uber, you know, or you're not drinking to begin with, you know. And I don't say this to scare you, but just trust me, between crazy drivers and what we're going to be seeing with some stuff in relation to storms, definitely a good time to be safe if you're going to be out and about in Friday and Saturday evening. Mercury's at the eclipse degree. Okay, so if you guys think back to, was it April 8th? Solar eclipse in Aries, right? Conjunct Chiron. It like makes me think of like that Elmo meme where Elmo's on fire and he's like screaming. That's like the entire month of April, right? Like that's how it felt like to me anyway. So now that Mercury is coming back for the 3rd time, hitting this degree, Mercury at 19 of Aries, how I'm communicating the relationship with myself, how I'm communicating how I feel with other people, how I'm working through these things, the reactivation of the eclipse and its conjunct Chiron. Watch for fighting words on Saturday. Watch for words that can be inflicting pain. Be mindful of what you say. You know, words have consequences. The moon then is going to switch degrees. It's going to move into Aries. It's going to come into conjunction with Mars in the evening. So hot tempers, quick moving, wanting independence, you know, want to go fast. And then Mercury is coming into conjunction with Chiron. So there can be a sense of like being very impulsive, acting on our emotions, Moon, Mars, right? Quite a bit on the 4th. And Mercury at the eclipse degree. So yeah, I think we're going to see more kind of like little activations relating to the eclipse then. And this is going to bring us to Sunday, the 5th. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon is in Aries still. And it's spicy. It's coming into a conjunction with the North Node. Now, while it's doing that, it's coming off of a sextile with Pluto. Obviously, the North Node is drive and direction, ruled by Mars. So with the moon hitting the North Node ruler and then hitting the North Node, you want to pay attention to what's happening on the 4th or 5th of May. It's like, what are you feeling drawn to do? Do you have this impulsiveness? Do you want to spend more time alone? Do you suddenly want to work out? Are you wanting to initiate new things? Like, this is about moving forward. And with that energy, with Mars being there, you guys really want to pay attention to when the moon is in Aries, because it's going to pack more of a punch, where Maybe we're listening instinctually to our emotions or our inner self. Our gut is telling us, hey, you got to do this thing. We got to, go and do this thing and do it now, right? So there's some impulsiveness. Kind of cool to wake up with Sunday with this. It can mean that, maybe you're feeling like, I'm not waiting for, like my significant other to like get up and join me. I'm going to go for a run or go and get something done, and then, like can reconnect with them at a later date. That moon in Aries is very independent, and it's going to need to go and do something on its own, or it's going to need an outlet for something. So it's like a great day to like get up and work out, to get up and focus on your own goals, to get up early. Aries is first thing we do in the morning, to have your own routine where you kind of get your own stuff done before you're connecting with other people. And the moon is going to meet with the North Node right around the early evening. So watch for, significant events and things manifesting or happening pertaining to the direction of where we're going. And also Mercury meets with Chiron. So it can be the sense of like needing to finally communicate where you've been hurt, or working something out, or rehashing something. And it's at 20. So it's about transformation of the way that we communicate and think and, kind of talk, to ourselves, or how we communicate with other people, making conscious changes revolving around like communication. And man, with all this Aries energy, there can be a tendency to kind of like shoot from the hip and kind of say something or do something and then think about it at a later point. So it's really easy with the North Node to be there, to be acting impulsively, or to almost be like selfish in a way, right? And maybe rightfully so. With the North Node in Aries, there is this sense of, what do I want to do right now? Right now. It's not about where we've been or where we're going. It's being in the moment. So try to remember that. There's a lot of like, I need to focus on what I'm doing right now, not where I'm going, just initiating, taking the first steps and kind of getting started. So Sunday would be such a wonderful day, even into Monday, if you want to start something new, right? Granted, all this energy, it can be a little piss and vinegar, and we are coming into a new moon phase. We're coming into what's going to be a new moon in Taurus pretty soon here. So there can also be some grumpiness, because the planet, the moon has to go through all these planets where it's rushed and it's, being told to communicate and like work through problems, before it comes into Taurus. And then there's going to be this new moon. So there can be some grumpiness through this as well. Maybe some self-awareness of what needs to change, to feel like you can have more stability or more peace, right? All right. So that's basically the week ahead, right? So just as like a recap, because I'm going to go in order. May the 3rd, Mars sextile Pluto in Aquarius. May the 7th is the next transit that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and that's going to be the Sun in Taurus sextile Saturn. I threw the sextiles in, honestly, for this video because I was like, well, there is some support coming from some various places. This is also very much baked into this new moon in Taurus that we're going to be having. So let's pull that up here. There we go. So on the 7th, we'll have a new moon in Taurus at 18 degrees. So if you have any personal planets, 17, 18, 19 degrees of Taurus, sun, moon, rising, or personal planet, this is a new moon that's more personal for you. Go watch that video I did on the new moon in Taurus. I love it, basically, just very simply, right? We got a new moon that's ruled by Venus. Venus is in its domicile. This new moon is conjunct Uranus, which means it's ripe with the opportunity to make changes, to get out of the box and do something different. It's also very close to Jupiter, which is abundant, and it's promising us something really lucrative or beautiful on the other side of this. Now, new moons can take about 6 months to totally manifest. And in that video, I show you guys in 6 months, we will have a full moon in Taurus. So that moon will be exalted again, and it'll be conjunct Uranus. So it really means that this is the season of preparation. This is the season of taking stock of, what do I have? What do I need more of? What do I value? What am I spending on? How can I become more solid? So in the off chance things get a little wacky in the fall, like they probably will with that full moon, you have everything that you need. Beautiful aspects also to Saturn. Saturn is saying, I'm looking over this whole new moon. I'm giving you the vision. Here's the blueprints. Here's what you've been praying for, manifesting. Here's what you believe in. Now go and build it. So wonderful moon for manifesting, wonderful moon for abundance. It's good for everybody all around. There is a twist to this that is very health related because it is 18 degrees. So it is a Virgo degree. So if you want to change how you're eating, if you want to change something about how you're spending money, if you want to stick to a budget, if you want to focus on having a much, I think, healthier and not more so natural kind of like lifestyle, this is a good new moon to be working with. And it does teach you that there is some sense of needing to blend the spiritual with the physical to make your dreams become a reality. So I love it all around. Only downside is that we do see that the Mercury Chiron conjunction is still kind of playing out in the background. So saying what we need and speaking up for ourselves can be uncomfortable, right? It can be difficult saying, hey, I need more, or I no longer value this, or I can't spend this kind of money. But in that, we're able to kind of really kind of get things in order. And I think, find the necessary way of becoming or feeling more confident or more secure. So this is then going to take us to the 13th, where, there we go. We're going to see several transits happen this day. Okay, this is one of my favorite days, by the way, all month long. This is when we're going to see the sun in Taurus, okay? Let's see, come into conjunction with Uranus. So this is the kind of like wild card, anything goes, sudden rock and rattle and roll type of day. The sun can be shining a light on Taurus things, food, resources, money, banking. I've told you guys for months, watch what happens when planets come into conjunction with Uranus and Pluto goes retrograde, that we were going to see more, I think, banking busts, some more financial kind of turbulence. 23 degrees is an Aquarius degree. So this is where things speed up, or where something's been breaking down. It happens faster. Basically, we kind of projectile launch into the future. Things can kind of combust here too. So this is a wild card day, and it makes me feel like that plus Venus here sextiling Saturn is like, okay, something may come up financially that's unexpected, or there may be some dramatic kind of change in a physical sense to something, but we have a safeguard, right? Saturn is basically saying, it's okay, we've got the necessary support. Personally, this could be like some kind of like a bank bail-in, bail-out situation, because Saturn in Pisces can basically be about like structures and, government kind of supervision and other things where they're like, we're overseeing this, or we're going to make sure that it's not a bigger problem than it needs to be. So if there is some kind of shock and surprise, Saturn is saying like, I've got you, I'm kind of holding you down. Same thing with Venus. And then Mercury is going to leave shadow. Okay. So post shadow, and I've told you guys this, I'm like, look, if you guys thought the pre-shadow was kind of crazy, the post-shadow is going to kick too, because now we've had eclipses. So likely up until this day, we're still feeling the effects of the Mercury retrograde. Technically, Mercury's direct. Once you get to, pretty much the beginning of the month. Even though it's direct, you're still going to be feeling the back end. So if you're like a perfectionist like me and you want to wait until Mercury leaves shadow, this is a time where you can feel more confident about signing things, agreeing to things, buying stuff, making like more so long-term commitments. Just know that the Sun-Uranus energy in the background is a little bit of like a wild card. So you don't really know what you're going to get here. On the 15th of the month, we're going to see that Mercury is going to enter Taurus. Okay, so communication's going to slow down a little bit. I have Mercury in my second house, so I kind of resonate with that. Taking your time when it comes to financial matters, business, traveling, communication, agreements. Good news is that Mercury is in a fixed earth sign. So it's practical, takes its time. It wants to simplify. It wants to, really thoroughly go through things and negotiate, because it's a sign ruled by Venus. But there may be more communications revolving around Taurus related things. Banking, money, resources, self-esteem, pleasure, that kind of stuff. Most important for my Gemini and Virgo risings, because you're ruled by Mercury, but equally, for Taurus placements as well. You might notice you're a little bit more communicative. You're more talking about what you want, what you need, because Mercury is connected to your money house. Then we are going to see just 2 days later, right? This is fun now, because as we go through Taurus season, every single time a planet moves into Taurus, it's immediately going to get checked by Pluto. So you want to think back to, what was happening when Venus was squaring Pluto on the 1st. Okay, so 2 weeks prior, Venus was going through the same square where there was some kind of challenge with resources when it comes to, power structures, right? Pluto and Aquarius, still associated with Saturn. what limited blockages or things we don't have. Now with Mercury square Pluto, there may be actual literal documentation, information, proof about being like, yeah, well, now there really is word that there's going to be a difficulty with transactions or limitations revolving around money moving or, business related things. Mercury is travel, by the way. And so something that's interesting that might be connected to this. Did you guys see recently out in the headlines, they were saying that there was like some bill that was passed now, at least here in the United States, for the major airlines. If they cancel your flight, if your flight is delayed, if they lose your luggage, you are having to be refunded. Okay, Mercury's travel. And so this can very much be about where, travel and personal possessions and what we're paying for in terms of transportation is now like potentially going to maybe create some challenges for big business. That can very much be Aquarius. So I'm wondering, like, how's that going to impact the airlines when you think about just how many bags get lost, how many times flights are delayed or sometimes canceled, especially when we're seeing so much just like chaos that's been going on with the air travel industry. I really feel like that could be very detrimental for them. I don't know. But I'm wondering if this is going to have anything to do with that, if we're going to hear more about that maybe. All right. And then we're going to see on the 18th, this is another day that I like. There we go. This is your Venus-Uranus day. Okay. So here's Venus at 23 degrees, which is rocking, rattling, rolling. Yes, full disclosure, like a Venus-Uranus transit for relationships that have been kind of on the fritz, it can be like the grand finale that's like, and now we're really done. Yes, that can happen. But Uranus wants freedom, and it's not happy in Taurus because Taurus wants peace. So Uranus can be like periods where it's very patient and then it blows up, and then it's very patient and then it blows up in Taurus. So Venus coming into conjunction, and keep in mind, Venus rules the South Node. And I said this in one of my previous videos. I know I might sound repetitive, but the 18th and the 19th, like something's going to go down in the world. Okay, I'm fairly confident here for a number of reasons. But with the South Node ruler being Venus, and it's in the sign of banking resources, possessions, and money, and it conjuncts Uranus, which means all hell is breaking loose in a relationship or all hell is breaking loose in a financial situation, it's feeding off of this South Node in Libra, coming into conjunction with the South Node, the moon, which is the emotional clearing that comes from, oh my God, the relationship's now really ending. Here's the financial repercussion, or here's how it makes me feel, in terms of my security, or here's how it's impacting me financially. And then the very same day, you have Sun conjunct Jupiter, and many astrologers will tout this as the luckiest day of the year, especially with Jupiter being in Taurus. That's about money, resources, indulgence, and abundance. So it can be for some people, somebody's loss is your gain. I really look at this as if something falls apart this day, Uranus can be about divorce. 23 degrees can be about divorce. So you're going to hear a lot about separations, breaking apart, people, no longer working together or partnering or being, a part of a partnership. If something breaks down, it may actually be a blessing in disguise, right? Sun, Jupiter. And it's sextiling Neptune. And so it's like, well, what riches and resources do we have to receive through letting something go and through kind of letting something kind of break off or break down? It can mean for some people that their investments go absolutely through the roof because there is a breakthrough with cryptocurrency, right? Uranus, Venus. There is a breakthrough with, some material that becomes very valuable or very scarce. It may mean that there is some tech stock or agricultural stock or something that, becomes very valuable. The New York Stock Exchange is a Leo rising with a late degree Taurus placements in the 10th house. So my interpretation is we're going to see perhaps some kind of top in the stock market right around this time, I feel. But it's going to send people into a bit of a tailspin. Now, the other thing to think about, and I was actually looking at previous cycles, like I think it was like the last time we were having the North Node eclipses in Aries 18, 19 years ago, right after we had those eclipses, I think it was July, about 19 years ago, Mars in Aries met with the North Node, and there was like, a bunch of terrorist stuff that happened that year. There was like a pretty bad terrorist attack that happened, I think, in London. The North Node is strange and unusual, right? We do not know where it is going. It's not just all of this kind of hokey, Western astrology. This is your destiny. When we're talking about this in a sense of, kind of like generic global horoscopes, the North Node represents things that we don't see coming, okay? And so because it's ruled by Mars, and then Mars hits the North Node, obviously another knock on wood moment, these are generally what we see when there's like attacks, terrorist attacks, issues with weapons, issues with war, issues with devastation, right? And this is happening in a Taurus degree. So it tells me that there's either going to be something going on pertaining to money made from military action, military stocks, or some stock goes up because there is some kind of conflict somewhere in the world, or there is some sense of people feeling very angry or agitated, or some kind of uprising that's happening over money, resources, food, or possessions, okay? Way too many things going on this day for me to be like, it's nothing. So the 18th and the 19th are days that I'm going to be watching because there are so many, honestly, like contradicting energies in the skies. And the best advice I can give you is, number one, keep your cool, because people will be heated with Mars conjunct the North Node. Pay attention to where you need to stand up and you need to be more independent, or you need to defend yourself, or you need to speak up for yourself. Have some faith, Sun conjunct Jupiter. Be confident, right? Really stick to your guns and say, you know what, my morals, my beliefs, my will not go against my belief system. I'm kind of sticking to my guns when it comes to what my values are. I will not go against that. Solid in a sense of your faith and your value system. Something else I will also note is generally, we've seen in previous historical charts, whenever I see anything hit around 15 degrees of Libra, we've seen assassination attempts. So something else that's going to happen is we're going to see round about the time that Mars is in 14 degrees, approaching 15 degrees, the moon is going to hit South Node at 14 degrees. The moon is then going to move to 15 degrees and it's going to oppose Mars. Ooh. And anybody who knows anything about 26 to 29 degrees of Taurus knows that that's about Algol, which can be about off with their head, losing their head, issues pertaining to heads. I don't even like talking about this stuff, but it's like when I see it, I'm going to put it out there and let you guys know we can hear some stuff about some kind of organized attack. Unfortunately, I hope not. Crazy energy out there. We got 29 degrees Jupiter Sun, 29 degrees Neptune. They're sextiling each other. And likely you're going to see some people look at the situation and like the stock market may very well not be reflecting the events that's going on in the world. And I think we've seen a lot of that recently. It's like crazy that we'll see stuff going on with like Iran and Gaza and like Israel, and then the stock market will just like roar. It's crazy to me. So it may not make sense that there is some stuff going on out in the world where people are being hostile and combative, but it might be like people are going like, yeah, in the exchange. It's sick. All right, so that's the 18th and the 19th. Let's see what happens. For those of you guys who are like, when are you filming this? I'm filming this on April 25th. So I'm almost a whole month out before this happens. So we'll have to see what kind of plays out there. But yeah, that's definitely a difficult energy with Mars conjunct the North Node. Good for initiating and starting new things though. But I really feel like with Mars at 14 degrees, it's like, and I've said this before, like fortune favors the bold. Those of you guys who are willing to make some bold moves and either be entrepreneurial or make an investment or make a move or really focus on gathering or possessing certain things, it will actually end up being really positive for you in the long run. And you'll be able to look back at this cycle and go, that's when I started this thing, and like, look at what it's become now. And it's very obvious to me that it's going to be something new that we're initiating, which may bring some sense of, abundance or wealth. So for some of you guys, big risk, big reward. All right, so this is now going to take us, did I talk enough about the Sun Jupiter? I mean, luckiest day of the year, maybe. I feel like when the Sun's conjunct Jupiter, we can be too overly optimistic sometimes. Although the dispositor for all of this is Venus, and Venus is nearby. So there is this feeling of being like, yes, more money, more resources, indulgent, all of the things, the finer things. Like people are going to be feeling like buying like it's going out of style. And I mean, the dollar is going out of style. So maybe people are trying to find other things to do with their dollars. Maybe that's what this is. Certainly Taurus is about metals. Leo is more gold. But you know, Taurus has connections with land and agriculture and food and copper, if anything, copper more than gold. Silver is more Cancer. And, you know, I'm not like a buff on these things, but looking at some of the stuff going on with like silver and copper, it does make me feel like for those of you guys who are like, oh, gold is too expensive, maybe worth looking at those two metals, because this can be a time where it is, we're starting to see glimmers of where those two other metals might be more valuable in the future. Okay, but yeah, overly optimistic maybe. You know, did we drink the Kool-Aid with the sextile to Neptune? Maybe. But there is a sense also of this feeling of, as Venus is coming into conjunction with Jupiter, oh my God, I envisioned this thing, I prayed for this thing, and like, is it really here? So it can be, you know, beautiful manifestations of things that we've been waiting for, but Venus has been kind of tangoing with Uranus. So it does seem like it's positive endings to things that, you know, we perhaps didn't quite see coming. So with Mars conjunct the North Node, just know this will be Mars on steroids, guys, okay? And you'll be feeling this a couple days prior. I would say like from the 17th maybe to the 22nd, you're going to be feeling this. Then we're going to see on the 22nd, the sun will have already moved into Gemini. So those of you guys who are May Tauruses, happy birthday. Those of you guys who are Gemini, who are born in May, happy birthday to you guys as well. This sun ingress is going to shine a light on communication, getting around, transportation, learning. And we're going to see Mercury that's going to be, you know, moving there pretty soon as well. It's kind of hanging out in Taurus, so it's a little bit behind. But the sun is going to form a nice lucrative trine to Pluto at a 2. So I do think this is going to be more about information pertaining to media, maybe even tech or tech-related stocks or things like that. Some information revolving around changes with the internet, which is definitely kind of on the horizon right now. If you guys haven't been following the news with some things pertaining to like net neutrality rules and other things, that's definitely brewing. So I'm wondering if that's going to kind of come up here. And then we're going to see on the 23rd, there we go. We've got a lot of stuff going on this day. So this is the day that Venus will conjunct Jupiter. Okay, Venus will conjunct Jupiter. So it'll be on the 23rd. Venus, love, relationships, harmony, right? Money, pleasure. Jupiter, making things bigger. At a 29, romantic, creative, loud, yeah, like very like, yeah, very romantic. It's such an interesting full moon. So this will also be the full moon in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter conjunct Venus. So this is like a going all out type of vibe, right? I feel like Venus conjunct Jupiter is positive regardless of which house this is taking place. There is this feeling of the final moments of sweetness and indulgence and also romance. Very creative and great for creative projects as well. Making a sextile to Neptune also at 29 degrees. So this is that kind of dreamy, whimsical, oh my God, is it happening kind of vibe. Granted, you know, this will be taking place basically 6 signs away from Sagittarius. So it can represent big news revolving around food, jobs, resources, health. But for all of you guys, it's a pretty sweet aspect. Now, later in the day, we are also going to see the ingress of Venus into Gemini. And while all of this is happening, like I said, it's sextiling Neptune. So it's kind of vibey, right? So Venus is going to enter into Gemini then a couple hours later. And what else do we have going on this day? That's pretty much it. All right. So extra sweet that day. I hope you guys enjoy that full moon. That's going to be a good one. And then this is going to take us to the 25th. And on the 25th, we have Venus in Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius. And we're now seeing like this stellium that's been kind of really built up in Taurus now shifting into Gemini. So Sun, Venus, Jupiter, all in Gemini. Double trouble, you know, communication is your love language, changing things up, having options, choices, learning. all that fun stuff. This is all funneling into trines with Pluto, which is fortuitous still for relationships and also for money. I'm really thinking about like tech and AI stocks because Pluto in Aquarius is about power and transformation revolving around these things. I think about Jupiter, Venus and the opportunity for abundance. Certainly, just me kind of thinking about what's been happening recently. I'm thinking about these changes going on with potential ban on TikTok, and how this is going to be really influencing people to be shifting something about their investments into other potential like apps or other potential like companies. And also some of the politicians that were doing that prior to voting on this ban, which is interesting. That could very much be Pluto in Aquarius. But I do think that there's going to be opportunities to be investing in other platforms or other social media or other tech, which could be very abundant and very lucrative. Obviously, air trines are social. They're about information. It's about moving around. It's about freedom of information, and where information is powerful and it can powerfully influence something about what you're doing with your resources too, who you're supporting, what apps you're supporting, what you have streaming kind of agreements with, or what you're subscribed to. Mars will also be at the eclipse point again. I know you guys are sick of these activations, right? I promise you this is the last one. So now we have Mars at 19 degrees. So it's reactivating that eclipse from April 8th. And now Mars leaving that conjunction with the North Node where it's been particularly spicy, reactivating the solar eclipse, which was conjunct Chiron, which is basically new opportunities to heal ourselves. Now you guys are cooking with gas. You're like, yes, I'm moving forward. All the things I learned in April where I was kind of in my own way and I wasn't healed and I wasn't acting right and I wasn't communicating right and I had to kind of clean my act up. Now I'm on the straight and narrow path. So this is the day that you're going to see more effects of this. Now, the good news is Mars does well in Aries, right? It's in its domicile, so it's at home. The good news also is that now everything's direct outside of Pluto. So we can really move forward now with these new goals. And maybe you're like actively already doing these things and you've been doing it in the month of April into May, and maybe all of May, you've been really committed to your routine and now you're seeing it. The challenge is that it's eclipsy. We're still going to see things relating to the eclipse. The challenge is also that the eclipse was conjunct Chiron, which means we're dealing with our wounds. For some of us, we got injured and we're healing. And for other people, we're realizing we're wounding ourselves, or because we're wounded, we're wounding other people. And so that's the challenge. Mars is still going to come into conjunction with Chiron. So we're kind of in some tricky territory here where I think the Mars North Node energy has been extremely intense. And where we are combative, hard-headed, where we're aggressive, it can literally materialize as wounds, right? Literally, Aries is the head. Migraines, headaches, sinus issues, burns, abrasions, bumps, scrapes, concussions. These are all Aries-related things, so you want to be mindful of that. Then we're going to see on the 27th, this will be Mercury in Taurus, sextile Saturn in Pisces. Great day for making our mind up about something, committing to something, reading through the details and signing something. Through Saturn's vision and sobriety and commitment and dedication, we're able to kind of work through something and say, yes, I think I can commit to this. The only catch is that we're in Gemini season. So Mercury is very important. So the Mercury-Saturn sextile is great for commitment, but Mercury is coming into conjunction with Uranus, which means we're committing to making changes. We are kind of forecasting into the future, or kind of intuitively leaning into, well, what do I think is going on with the World Economic Forum, or what is going on with food, or what is going on with the banks, and where am I making changes to the way that I look at money? Where am I diversifying? I think that's like the big thing. I've been dealing with a lot of that personally, just learning about different banks. I've been also hearing a lot of other people talking about that. It's been interesting to hear a lot of people discussing, what they value and where they're putting their money and what they're doing and where they're getting their most bang for their buck. So you may be feeling like, maybe it is time to diversify, and I am going to move money here. I'm going to save money there. I'm going to pay this thing off. And so this can be a good time to potentially do that. Just be mindful that 18 degrees is saying you got to get through the details first. There's something that you have to kind of work out and organize before it's going to become reimagined in some way. And then on the 29th, Mars conjuncts Chiron. So pull out your red Sharpies for me. This is the day you want to circle, okay? So hear me on this. And like, this is coming from somebody who's been studying this transit because my moon is at 22 degrees of Aries. So if you guys see me show up at the beginning of June with just a gnarly sunburn on your face, I'm going to blame this transit on my face, excuse me. So 22 degrees is a skin degree because it deals with Capricorn. It is a degree that also deals with challenges, things that are hard or difficult, where we have to work through something, right? It's like going up the steep hill. 22 degrees also is about timing or age or older people or things that we're having a difficulty getting through. It can also be dealing with teeth, skin, bones, and nails. These are all Capricorn things, 22. Chiron is where we heal, right? So when Mars comes into conjunction with Chiron, it's more inflicting wounds. So this would be a time where you're more predisposed to being like, I broke a bone, or, I stubbed my toe, or I didn't wear my hat and I got a sunburn on my scalp, or I didn't put any sunscreen on my face and I got burned, or, I wasn't being careful and I was moving boxes and I hit my head, This is a day to be mindful of what you're doing, be mindful of your actions, be aware of your body, and really just pay attention to where there could potentially be some issues coming up where we're either needing to heal some long-standing issues that we've been dealing with, and it can be agitation, frustration, impatience, being temperamental, whatever. But this can be a little bit of like a challenging aspect. And this is actually going to go pretty much from, you'll start feeling it around the 28th until it starts separating right around the 31st. Okay. And really even until like the moon crosses. So you guys may even still be feeling this like right about here, June the 2nd. But especially when Mars and the North Node are in conjunction, because, it's still conjunct that solar eclipse degree from April with a couple degrees. And this can really reference like where individuals are really hurting. Now, even looking at this, like the dispositor is Mars in itself. So it's going to be quite literally within ourselves. Where are we doing ourselves a disservice? Where are we not getting out of our own way? Where is anger and hostility and hate and all of this stuff taking up too much space in our bodies and creating inflammation and creating health problems and making us more predisposed to having issues with other people, right? So just some food for thought with that. On the 30th, you will also see Mercury conjunct Uranus. So remember how I said you were kind of going back and forth on the 27th, like, okay, how do I make a change? What am I doing? Then you're going to start to see Mercury start coming into conjunction with Uranus. And this is going to be really late on the 30th, early on the 31st. And this can be shocking, surprising news, things coming in that you didn't see, having an out of the box kind of moment where you're thinking differently. This is all behind the sun in Gemini, so it may be a time where you're feeling a little bit more intuitive. Your dreams might be a little bit more active. We're definitely going to get some sextiles with this conjunction from the moon and Saturn. So I would say like the evening of the 30th of May and the 31st, pay attention to your dreams, because this is happening in degrees that are connected to Pisces. So it's about the subconscious. And you might just notice you're a little bit more tapped into some stuff that could potentially be happening at that time. As a reminder, the 15th, Mercury enters Taurus. The 20th, the Sun enters Gemini. The 23rd, Venus enters Gemini. And the 25th, Jupiter enters Gemini. Stay tuned. I will be doing ingress videos for all of the, pretty much all of the ingresses. We'll be touching on them throughout the next month. Yes, Pluto goes retrograde on the 2nd at 2 degrees of Aquarius. So if you happen to be 28 degrees of Capricorn to about 4 degrees of Aquarius, you are still under a Pluto transit. So you will be feeling the effects of that retrograde. Time to reevaluate. Where is your power coming from? What are you giving power to? What's breaking down? What is now being shown to you that is kind of ugly or funky, or things that you're ready to kind of clear out. Look forward to 2 very, very abundant lunations this particular month. So as a reminder, we're going to see the first one on the 7th of May, that new moon in Taurus. Time to do your money manifestation, time to focus on healthier habits, think outside of the box, dream big, have a vision for what you're hoping to build. And then we will have that full moon that's going to be taking place on the 23rd in the sign of Sagittarius at 2 degrees of Sag. So if you have anything around, I would say 0 degrees of Sag to about 4 degrees, you're going to feel this the most. Super sweet with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, over the top. Watch for overindulging, watch for overspending, but I think it can be wonderful for creating more time for pleasure, for beauty, for harmony. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to be like a wonderful time to just be really enjoying yourself. Sun trine Pluto makes us feel empowered. Moon sextile Pluto is helping all of us focus on our goals, expand a little bit, right? You know, Sagittarius is culture and travel and philosophy and belief systems. So definitely a time to take in, you know, your sweet things, to, you know, maybe opt for the finer things in life, indulge a little bit, stop and smell the roses, enjoy yourself with this very, very abundant full moon. That's going to be May in a nutshell, guys. I hope that was helpful for you. If you want more on your sun, moon, or rising sign, check out my May 2024 horoscopes. They are live for you. You guys can check those out. I will also be putting out the new moon and the full moon stuff. Usually I'm about 2 weeks early. So when we have a new moon, the full moon's coming out and vice versa. We're going to be touching on this next week, previewing Jupiter in Gemini, what it means for you guys. And we're going to take a look at what's happened in the past with this transit. We've got Mars going into Aries, Venus in Taurus, and a couple other things sprinkled in between. So make sure you're subscribed. Click that bell button below so you can follow my content. I'd love for you to join us all. You know, we're here learning astrology and also looking at what's playing out in the world. But let me know, well, how are you feeling about these energies? What are you seeing? What's manifesting for you? Are you noticing any kind of coincidences with some of these transits and what you're seeing out in the world? Sharing is caring. Please do share these videos with other astrology enthusiasts. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoy the month of May. It is like chef's kiss. I will still be here doing my regular videos for you guys. Hopefully, if everything goes well with my internet, we will be here for the live readings on Friday, but all of May, I'm on vacation. So you guys will be seeing me in another location, but we'll still be putting videos out here for you every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. That's it for me. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and you guys take care. I'll see you very soon.